Okay, and we'll start with your questions. Do you have any questions, anything in your mind about Appian, anything that you wanted to know? Hey, well, good evening. Right? So yeah, guys, go ahead. If you have anything in your mind, if you wanted to ask anything about Appian, no? Okay. Am I audible, guys?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. If you guys don't have any questions, then let's say let's talk about the Appian objects. That what do we have in Appian? What are the components we use to design a whole application? Right. Let me share my screen quickly. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So as we talk about this page yesterday, right, we see that this is a developer page. If we talk about a suite, see, this is one of the suite called design, right? And once you log in, if you are going navigated to the tempo page, from there you can simply click on this icon and then go to the Appian designer. So you will land to this page, right? Now, what other things we have in this page? First of all, we have a button called new application, right? So this is used to create a new application in this environment for your requirement, right? And then we have an import button. Like let's say if you have any application available in some other environment, if you want to import the package of that application, right, you can do that by clicking on this button. So, but this feature has been disabled in the freely available environment. You can't import and export the things here, but yeah, this is the option is also available. On your left hand side, first is called applications. So where you can see all the list of applications, right? Each application is one, working application for you. So there are around 128 applications in this environment. You can create more. It's not limited to a number of applications you can create in one environment. Second is that objects. If you talk about the objects, what are the objects we have throughout our application, irrespective of the individual applications. If you let's say if I'm gonna click on the data type, it will list all the data type that are available throughout my environment, irrespective of the applications. Right. So likewise, you can search for all your objects here. Now, third option is called deploy. If you have done any deployment from this environment to higher environment or any other environment to this environment, all will be listed here. So this is an incoming and this is the outgoing. So whatever objects you have deployed from this to high environment, that will go into the outgoing. And if you have anything deployed to this environment, then you will see the incoming, right? And then we have monitor. So what happens whenever we execute anything in the back, right, as a process instance, let's say you have designed any process or you have taken any action. So whenever you take an action, a process will get triggered in the backend. So these are the list of the processes that have triggered in the backend. You can see there is a some errors. If you want to check what the going with the errors, you can open the process instance and then you can check the errors and all, right? And then finally we have the user tabs where you can see all the available users in the environment. Okay, any question of this tab? First of all, this designer.
No, no question.
Okay, then who can access this page? Can a basic user of the application who is going to use this application, when I say application, like whatever as a developer anyone will build, right? Let's say leave management system, right? If a basic user has the access of leave management system application, can they access this page? It's a pretty much simple question, right? One would answer yes, no. What do you think? A basic user who has an application access as an end user, can they access this suite of Appian? Come on,
I
guys.
think
Yes,
yes,
no?
sir. I think yes, I can access.
No. As a basic user or an end user, right? They cannot access the designer suite of an application. So let's tell you first, there are two kind of users in Appian. One is a basic user and one is a system admin. Okay. The basic users are the users who will be using the application that as a developer you guys will be building. So they can access the tempo shoot and then they can access the sites, but they cannot access the design and then the admin console, the database. These are things will not be available for them. So that's in the basic user. If they are any user is a system admin, they can access everything, right? Now in basic user we have two kinds of users: a pure basic users and one basic user with the access of developers, right? So what happens if I create a basic user as a developer access? Those users can access this page, designer page. Those users can access the database page, but they cannot access the admin console, right? So in real-time scenarios, any user who is going to use the application as a bank employee, they will have a basic user access, only pure basic user access, and they can only access the tempo and sites of the page. Okay. Now you guys are gonna working as an app and developer, so you could be a system admin or you could be a basic plus designer access, developer access. Okay, got it? Is that clear? Any question?
No
Is
questions,
that
sir.
clear? Cool. Okay, so now as a developer, when I go and here come to here, right? So when we create an application, so we will, because we are a developer access, so we can access this page. Okay, do you guys have anyone has anyone in their mind that what kind of use case you want to go with? Any use case? No? Okay. Think about it. We can start a use case designing later. So come up with some use case. So right now I'm going to create a test application. Let's say I'm going to give some name as test. Uh, let's say this is August, right? So I'll say August 2024 training app, right? So this is the name of the application we put it, August 2024 training app, right? So what Appian does, it auto generates some prefix. If you want to change the prefix, you can change it. What is the prefix now? Whatever object we will create in our application, those objects name will start with the same prefix that you add here. Okay, right? Now this is a very important prefix because this will make your uh, let's say if I'm going to try with some prefix SMA, right? What it says, this prefix is already in use, right? We cannot use this prefix. So this prefix is also will be useful to uniquely identify your objects. Okay, so we add this prefix. Now you can add a description about your application, what it is gonna do. So I'll say this application. This is not a mandatory field, but it's good to have. And this application is only for training purpose. Okay, and then we see there's a checkbox called generate groups and folder to secure and organize objects. So what happens if you don't check this checkbox, and what will happen if you check this checkbox? So if I let go with the checkbox and I'll say create, right? I'll come to this. You see there are two objects it is being created already, A2TA administrator and A2TA users. These were the prefix that we were using, right? I'll say save. I'll come to this page. What's here? Now, once we create an application and we go inside the application, right here you can see this application has been created. Now, if I click on it, I'll go inside the application. The first tab is called Explore. It will highlight some of the objects that you have created, or you can directly create this, common objects for your application. Otherwise, you can go to the build. If you go to the build, you can see there are 7 objects has been created automatically. All these 7 objects was created because while creating the application, we check that checkbox. If you don't check that checkbox, these 7 objects will not be get created. Right. Now, what are these objects? We'll talk in details. But first of all, anyone has any idea what is an application? What the application that we are creating? So what is this application? Any thought about it? What's an application is?
Web-based.
No, no. This application we are talking that we have just created this application, right? Come on,
Yeah,
guys, be
to
interactive,
establish
right?
to establish
Right.
one app to promote like this. It's
Basically,
correct, sir?
this application is a container, right, which can hold your objects that you will create for your requirements. Right? Let's say I'm going to create one application called leave management system. So definitely we have to create a lot of interfaces, process models, and many other objects, right, to build one application, isn't it? So this application is a container which will hold all those objects within it, right? Is that clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, cool. So we have created this application which can hold all the objects, and there are now 7 objects which is already there. We'll talk about each of the objects here, what this object does. But if you click on the new, you will see these are the list of the objects that are used to create one whole application. Okay, so we'll talk about each one of them in detail, right? So, okay, and these all will come inside that discussion. So you see, we have groups, we have folders, we have rule folders. You can see here we have the folder option. So when we talk about the folder, we'll talk about these things, and then we have groups and everything. Okay, so let's talk about from the beginning, what's the data type, right? So I'm going to give you a brief description about all the subjects, and we'll talk about in much in details when we create such objects. Okay, so what's a data type? Right. So first of all, can you guys tell me what are the primitive data types? Anyone has any idea about the primitive data type? Yes, no,
Boolean if else statements, sir.
no, no. Primitive data types. Okay, so when we talk about data types, we say that okay, this is a text type, this is a number integer, this is a boolean, right? This could be a date type. So all the individual data types that we see, right, whenever you create a variable, we define the type of the data, right? This is going to be a text type or number integer type, right? So this all individual data types are called primitive data types. Okay, now let's say I want to collect all the information at one place as a container. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, sorry. So yeah, is that clear? What's a primitive data type? You guys know about it? So whenever we create a variable in any application or any development, if you talk about the Java development or any other programming languages, right? So we have this primitive data types, isn't it? Is that clear? What's a primitive data type? Text, boolean, number, integer, date, float. Come on, guys. Why you guys are not speaking? Make it interactive, right? Yes, no, anything, nothing is coming up. Only one person is talking. Am I audible to you guys?
Yeah, actually, this is something new for me. I'm not familiar with it, so
Right. So you again ask me, right? So I can explain. If you don't talk, how do I know that you haven't understand or not? Right. So you guys can talk, right? If you don't talk, then how do I know? Do I need to explain more or which part you haven't understood, right? So please let me know.
yeah,
So
yes.
what's the difference? I mean, what is the, I mean, didn't you understand what's a primitive data type? So whenever we declare any, if let's say, if I ask you to capture the name of a user, right? So any name of the person is gonna be what kind of type? What type it could be?
It
It's
will
a
be
string.
text.
String text, right? So that string text is a primitive data type. If I ask you to capture the date of birth of that particular user, what type of variable you will use?
Uh, date format.
Date, right?
Dated. Date.
Correct. So date is another data type, right? If I ask you, let's say a salary, can you capture a salary of a person? So what kind of data type you can use?
No, like numeric.
Right? Salary could be in decimals also, right?
Inti integers and float.
Float, right? Floats are there, doubles are there, right? So these all are the primitive data types, right? All are individual data types. So these are the primitive data types, right? Now, let's say if I ask you to capture all these details, right? Name, age, date of birth, salary. So how many variables you will use to capture this?
Strings, integers,
Right. It means like for
float,
each field,
float.
right? For each field, you will create one variable, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now imagine you have a form to fill, and in that form we have, let's say, 20 fields to capture, right? Let's say if you are, you are filling one a form for your education details where they are asking for your, degree certifications, where you passed from, what is your score and everything, right? So likewise, you have around 20 plus fields in your form. So is it okay to create 20 plus variables?
Yes, that's okay. You can create it.
Right. Okay. You can create it. That's fine. But if you want to use those variables to perform database read and write operation for a table, it would be very difficult to collect all together at one place, right? And then write it to the database. You cannot make a relation between them. So what comes in the picture is that a data type in Appian that is called custom data type, CDT. Okay, custom data type. What is a custom data type? You can create a group of primitive data types to represent one data type. Now let's say if I talk about the employee details, the employee first name, middle name, last name, age, DOB, salary, email address, phone number, address, many other details. So instead of creating all these different variables, let's create one CDT custom data type where we can club all them at one place so that we can handle only one variable of that particular type, right? So when we bring all those information at one place, we call that as a custom data type. Is that clear? Or any question? Okay, let me show you. So if I go and create a new data type, right now I'm gonna say there are four other options of creating it. I'm gonna with the first option for now, create from the scratch. I'll say employee. This CDT will hold. Venkat, can you go on mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so this CDT will hold employee details. Okay, now I'm gonna create this CDT. So it says what are the fields you want to add. Let's say I'm gonna add employee ID. Okay, and employee ID could be a type of number integer. So you see all the listed primitive data types are here. So I'm going to select number integer for employee ID. Then we can have first name so that we can create a type of text here. Then we can have, let's say, DOB, date of birth. I'm going to select as a type of date, right? Likewise, we can have email address. It's again going to be type of text, right? So what we are doing, we are bringing different primitive data type at one place to club it and then create one data type called A2TA employee. Now save the changes. So what happens, instead of maintaining 1, 2, 3, 4 different variables, we have to now maintain only one variable. So likewise, you can add n number of fields here. Okay, is that clear now? So if I want to access this variable, what we can say A2TA underscore employee dot first name, A2TA underscore employee dot email. So likewise, we can access all the different parameters of this CDT. Is that clear? What's a custom data type?
Yes, got it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Now, likewise, we can create any other CDTs also. So what are the options we have to create a data type? We have many other options. There are totally 4 options of creating data type. The one is the scratch that we just now did. The other one is the duplicate the existing data type. You can simply duplicate the one that we have created just now. Or any other CDT, if you want to duplicate, you can just duplicate it. The third one and the very famous one is that create the data from database table or view. Now, let's say you have a table created already, and in the table you have, let's say, 20 fields. So you do not have to type it manually, all the 20 fields. You can just link with the table, and then the CDT will be get created for exact with the same number of fields what you have in the table. So this is what we will be using a lot during our training, or in your actual development. When you start, they will also do the same thing. And then we have an XST file. So whenever we generate a CDT, it generates an XST file. I can walk you through what's XST file look like, and then it's a kind of XML file that you can use to create a CDT, right? So these are the 4 options to create a data type, custom data type. Okay. All right. Now next is the data store. What is a data store? So data store is an object which is used to establish the connection between your Appian development environment to your database. Although database is also part of this Appian environment, however, to uniquely identify which table you have to do the perform the read and write operation, you have to create a data store, right? So in the data store, we will establish a connection individually with the CDT, and then the which table we have to write the data, right? So that connection will get established in the data store. So we'll see when
So
we'll create it.
basically, it's a bridge between, right?
Right, correct, exactly. So let's say you have a employees data you have collected the employee data. So for to collecting the employee data, definitely you will use the CDT, because otherwise you have to segregate all different local variables. So instead of creating those variables, you just created a one variable of type of CDT and you collected the employee information. Now that employee CDT has to has same number of fields as your database. So in that case, what you can do, you can create a entity inside this data store to establish the connection and working as a bridge, so that we can pass the information to perform the read and to retrieve the information to perform to perform the write, and then to retrieve the information to perform the read operation. So from the table we can read and write the things. Now let's say in your employee CDT you have 10 fields. However, in database for employee table you have only 5 fields. Will you be able to perform the read and write? No, right? Because it will say the table you want to try to write your data is having less fields as compared to your CDT, isn't it? So that's the reason the CDT structure that you want to capture the data should be same with your database table. There are scenarios where you can, yes, you can do that, but we have to define those CDT column as transient so that it can be ignored while writing the data, but that's fine. For now, you can understand that the table structure and CDT structure should be same so that we can establish the connection between those two inside the data store. Okay, and that connection that you establish inside the data store will be used as an entity to perform the read and write operation. So we'll see when we create one how that works. Now third is called record type. I have given you a brief description about the record type as well, that here you can bring your data from different sources, you can combine it at one place, and then you can also take an action on those data. Let's say we create a record type of our employee table. In that case, we can create a new employee record, we can delete a particular employee record, and we can also update a particular employee record. So record is very powerful tool in Appian, which allows you to perform a lot of things. It also allows you to download the data without having writing a single line of code. You can simply download the data whatever you have in your table, in your Excel sheet. So this is also a very powerful tool. And then comes process model. What's a process model? Process model is an object which is used to define the workflow of your requirement or processes. Now let's say once I capture the employee details, I would like to take the details to the process model label so that I can go and then write the data to the database. If I want to send an email, if I want to generate any document, all those things we can perform inside the process model, right? So that process model is used to define the workflow, how you want to treat your data, right? And then we have process report. So what this process report is used to retrieve the data from the process model instance that you are running. So whenever you take an action in the backend, one process instance will get triggered. For that process instance, if you want to know the data, what are the process instance is about, what data it is carrying, when it was started, when it was ended, right? Is there any issue in the process instance? So all those things you can get it from the process report, right? Now these two objects that you see, robotics task and robotic pool, these are for the RPA, right? When you learn the RPA, then this will be useful. For normal Appian development, this is not required. And then we have interface. So interface is simply like whenever you want to create any interface for end users. Let's say that example we talk about where you want to capture the user details, all the first name, last name, middle name, date of birth, right? All the details you want to capture, we will create an interface object, right? And then we have a report. This report and this report is different. This report is to display the, if let's say if you want to, if you remember yesterday we are seeing the graphical representation of the data, right, to be displayed on the report tab of the tempo. So if you want to design such kind of interface, we will design that interface and we will club that interface to report, object, and this report object will be displayed on the tempo reports page, the graphical representation of the data. So that's this report is about. And then we have a site, as we have seen yesterday. User can also work on the tempo page on, and they can also use a site. So site is basically specific to an application. However, in tempo, if you are a part of 2 or 3 applications, all the tasks will be listed at the same tab. You cannot differentiate there. And then comes the portals. All right, this portal is being recently introduced to the Appian. Now let's say you want to give a feedback to any of the site. Let's say you are using Make My Trip and you want to give a feedback. Do you need a credentials created for you to give that feedback? Is that required? Or let's say you open any bank site and you want to ask a query. So do you need your credentials created for that?
No.
Right. So that's what was missing in Appian. So let's say as a customer, I have certain questions that I would like to ask the bank, right? So there was no way of doing that. I can visit the portal site now. Appian can create a site for portal for the bank where you can have an action. Let's say post a question or give feedback. Such kind of actions you can have. You don't need any credentials for that. You can simply access that bank site and then you can post your questions. Indirectly you are using the process models and triggering the action. Sorry, you are accessing all those things, but you don't need an Appian credentials for that. So that's why portals comes into the picture. It will have a limited access, like you cannot go and create an account for yourself, right? So those things will be only available for the bank employees, but you want to see the bank details as a kind of website, right, where you can visit and do all those things, so you can do that. So that's why the portal comes into the picture. And then we have expression rules. These expression rules are supporting object which is used to do the calculation. Let's say in your data you want to query some data from the database, you will create an expression rule. If you want to do some calculation of the data, you will create an expression rule. If you want to define any reform any structure of your data, you will create an expression rule. So any calculation, anything you want to perform with your data, you will create an expression rule for that. AI skill, this also has been added recently, as I talked about, right? AI skill, this is for the artificial intelligence. As a brief, we can tell you that let's say if you want to read body of your email, you can use this AI skills. If you want to extract the attachment from the email, you can use the AI skills, right? All those things you can do that. And then we have decisions. So decisions, let's say if I ask you if the letter is equal to A, display apple. If the letter is equal to B, display ball. Likewise, if I have certain actions. So how many if condition you will use in that case? There could be a nested ifs, right? If letter is equal to A, then do this, and again if letter is equal to B, then do this. So this will complex your query and you will use a lot of lines of code to use this nested ifs. To overcome the issue, Appian has come with the decision object where you can simply define row wise. If it's A then apple, B then ball, C then cat, D then dog, you can simply define in a column wise, a row wise, right? So it's very easy to understand now. You don't have to write such nested if conditions to get your output, right? So that is for decision object has been created where you can use it very easily, right? And then we have a constant. So what's a constant? Constant is basically, let's say you have given your name of your application as let's say leave management system, right? And in your application you have used this word leave management system almost 100 places, right? All the interface has this leave management system everywhere. Now for that, what you need to do, definitely there would be 100 interfaces where you are using this leave management system word. Business comes and then say that, you know what, I would like to change this leave management system to leave management application, right? What is the first you need to do to change this? You have 100 interface, and in all the 100 interface you have mentioned this word leave management system. If a business asks to change that leave management system to leave management application, what you need to do?
Yeah, we need to change them all in 100 interfaces.
All the 100 interfaces will need to change, right? Now imagine, instead of writing it to directly the text there in all the 100 interfaces, you have used a constant there, and in the constant you have you have given leave management system, right? And all the interfaces having this constant, right, trigger. So wherever the constant is being used, it will display leave management system. Now if business asks me to change that leave management system to leave management application, what I'll do is that I'll just update the constant. If I update the constant at one place, it will reflect all the 100 places, right? So that is the use of a constant. If you are having certain labels used, if you are having certain name or something to display it, so we can use a constant for that. So you don't have to modify all the places, right? The another use of constant is that we will be creating app documents, we will be creating folders. So there are certain functions in Appian which require a particular type of inputs. Now let's say there's a function called file upload, and that file upload function interface object requires a folder input, which folder you want to upload your document. So if we go and type the name of that folder, the function will not understand that. Why? Because the name that we have mentioned is a type of text. So we have to tell that which folder it has to be uploading the document. In that case, we will create a constant of that particular folder type, and instead of giving the direct name of that folder, we will use this constant, so that function can understand, okay, now you are telling me which folder we have to upload the document. So constant is useful there also. Translation set, this is added in the last release itself few months back, um, related to the AI skills, right? This one. And then we have very important connected system integration and API. This connected system integration and API are used to communicate with the third parties. If you want to retrieve the data from third party, if you want to expose your data to the third party, we will be using this three objects, right? So what is the connected system? Connected system is used to establish the connection between the Appian and then third party, and then you can use this connected system into the integration to actually query the data and bring the data from the third party. However, the API is used to expose your Appian data to the third party. Okay, is that clear? Any question till here, guys?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a document, right? So this document, like let's say if you are gonna generate any document in your Appian, if you're gonna upload any template for your application purpose, right? So you will create the document object. It's as simple as it is. Now we have group. Now you see that whenever we created this object, we have also, it created certain groups. So these two groups, A2TA administrator and A2TA users, these are the user groups which can hold the number of users in it. Now it depends, as a developer, someone will be the admin, someone will be the simple developer, right, as a viewer, and then someone will be the end users. So whoever has the end users, right, we need to add them to the A2A users group, because that is having the viewer role. So there are certain types of role in Appian. Say administrator role, initiator role, viewer role, right, and manager role. So these are the roles that we have. Now let's say if I, as an end user, I would like to see the data I would like to do some certain actions. So I don't need a system admin role, right? I just need a viewer role so that I can initiate any action and you can work on it. So all those users who's going to use this application, we will have to put those users into this group, A to TA users. Any users who require the admin role, like if something goes wrong in the application, they need to check, they will be the part of administrator group. So that's what we are creating the group for it. And then you remember, right, while creating this application, it was securing the group. So if you go and see the security, so A to TA administrator has the administrator permission and A to TA has the viewer permission, right? So that what happens when you assign a group. And then we have group type. So you can either create a group, custom group type, or you can create a as a normal group type. So if you want to create a custom group type, like these groups will be part of only for this application, you can create a group type of it. It's rarely used, uh, in application. And then we have feed. Feed is like, if you remember on the tempo page, we have seen something here, the news feed, right? And there's a news feed here. So if you want to publish any news feed to your application, you can create a news feed. So this object will be created by that tab. And then we have folders. Now folders, we have different type. You remember, you see this one, right? When we check that checkbox while creating the application, it created 7 objects, and out of the 7 objects, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders. Now, what are these folders are? So there could be a different kind of folders. One is the rule folder. The rule folder will be used to capture the data, to capture the objects like expression rules, interface rules, constant, right? All those things that we create in the application will keep into the rule folder. Second is the process model folder. In our application, whatever the process model we will be creating will be the part of this process model folder. And then we have document folders. Any document that we are going to upload or generate in the application will be part of the document folder. And then comes the knowledge center. This knowledge center is a document repository which will be holding all the document folders within it. Not this one, but the document folders. Now let me show you, as this has created process model folder. So here in this one, we can create process, we can store the process model. And then you see there are 2 document folders Appian has created. These are the 2 document folders where you can have some documentation and then artifacts. You can also create folders from your end if you want. If you need more folders, you can do that. And then we have a knowledge center. If you click on this knowledge center, you will see that those 2 document folders are part of it. So knowledge center is the document repository, the parent folder, and then which can hold the other document folders. And then we have a rule folder where you can create rules and constants like interface, expression rules, all those things, and constant is a part of this one. So Appian creates a separate folders for each of the things that you create in the Appian. Right. Any questions in the objects that we have? These are the objects that we will be using to create an application. Anything, guys? Any object that you might have seen that not understood? We will be, this is the brief description. We will be creating, when these objects, we'll talk about in details for sure. Okay.
So while building the application, we'll be using all these objects or any
Right.
selected objects?
No. All these objects that we talk about.
Okay. Apart from those RPA, remaining
Right.
all will be
Right.
using.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So anyone has anything in their mind for a use case? What application we will be creating throughout the training? Has anyone thought of it? No? All right. Think about it. Tomorrow or not tomorrow, Monday, let me know which application you want to go with. If you have anything in your mind, let's say you want to create a leave application, or if you want to create a customer onboarding, or if you want to have, you know, transfer of amount from one account to other account, or you want to have any inventory system to be created, right? So I mean, all those examples will cover the entire topic of Appian development, and we will use all those objects, right? So anything if you need in your mind, let me know. Otherwise, we can think about it and then we can start one. Okay.
Customer onboarding will be fine.
Customer onboarding. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fine. Good. So we will start with that customer onboarding. Okay. Have you guys registered yourself in Appian community?
No, I thought we're gonna get the credentials right from you.
Yeah, I will give that credentials for sure, but you guys can also try it, right? And Appian community, if you log into the Appian community, you will have other accesses as well, right? Like some, I mean, you can do that without the credentials as well, like documentation to read about any function and all, right? You can do that,
Okay.
but you can have it. Oh, that's fine. If you don't, I mean, if you want to try, you can try it. All right. Cool. I would suggest, if you want to register with your company's email address, so that chances are there that you will get that environment for your own. If not, then I will be sharing. Right. So there's a limitation, right? Like if you create all of them, start creating the application, right, then it will slow down the environment for sure, because they give very limited memory for practice environment, right? But that's fine. I also do the cleanup activity, so that's fine. All right. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And then we can talk about it. And Monday we can start with the customer onboarding application, right?
Mm.
Yeah, can we know like any material is available for this, for learning in detail about the objects and all?
Right. That's what the Appian community is about. That's why I was saying, in Appian community, you have a page called documentation, which has all the documentation that you think about it. Okay. I'll give you the reference how to look for, how to check that out documentation. If I create any document, I'll just copy paste from there also, right? So
So we
you
need
can
to
go there.
register to access that.
No, you can't. You don't need registration for that. You can simply access that. So the URL that I given you yesterday, right? The Appian community. You just go to that URL and go to the documentation tab. You will find every documentation. Let me show you now as well. Give me 1 second. Right. So this is the Appian documentation and community link, right? And then here you can see that docs.appian.com. Here, if you, let's say, I talk about, let's say if you want to search for any function, let's say you want to search for append function, just type the append and click on it. It will give you the whole details about the append function, how it works. Okay. So all those functions, you can see it here. Let me give it to this URL as well, directly to you. All right. Okay, then let's connect on Monday, and then we can start the actual development from the Monday onwards, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Yeah,